Welcome in everybody to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB, Zach Brown, and joining with me as always is former 410 Sprint Car crew chief and mechanic, my dad, Jeff Brown. The Clash has finished up at Bowman Gray Stadium. There was a lot of mixed reviews from it. I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of racing, a lot more passing than we have seen at the Clash at the Coliseum the last couple of years. We knew that passing happened because Ryan Blaney finished dead last, nearly won that damn race. Chase Elliott gets the win. He was the fastest car all weekend. That car was just so smooth. It had the best mechanical grip the entire race. Didn't get into any trouble. And it got close towards the end when he got to lap traffic, but he got through it a little bit better than Ryan Blaney. I really think this was a good start to the season. And hopefully it is a good foreshadow of a great NASCAR season.
Yeah, I was a little worried watching the first heat race. I mean, all they did was crash. I mean, Austin Dillon and I don't remember who else it was. All they did was crash. Oh, Justin Haley. I was like, oh Christ, here we go. This is going to be friggin', 3,500-pound bumper cars here all of a sudden. Then after that, it sort of calmed down a little bit. It wasn't as bad. But like I said, surprising for a track with zero banking. They were able to actually run two and sometimes three wide, which, some of the racing was pretty good. And you said Chase Elliott was the fastest car overall, maybe, but Ryan Blaney was impressive coming from starting dead last in that thing. And that car barely had a mark on it as compared to Kyle Larson, who basically crashed and spun out, 10 times and had a destroyed race car. And
so did William Byron and Alex Bowman. Hendrick didn't have a great day besides Chase Elliott winning. I liked it. There's been a lot of critics of it. The way the crowd was incredible to see there. I think they did it the right way, and I think the Last Chance qualifier was fantastic. And I just think overall it was success for NASCAR. I think you'll see them go back to it next year at the very least. As long as you see people pack the stands, you see I'm sure the ratings are going to end up being pretty decent for that. I think a lot of people,
especially since it was on just network TV or on regular Fox, that helps.
Well, it's amazing when you go back to doing what the fans have been wanting you to do, is go back to the route tracks. And we've been saying that you keep going back to these tracks, you're going to bring back the fans, and it did, and it was great racing. Definitely enjoyed it, the parts that I was able to see. And I thought Ryan Blaney had a shot, but he just got caught up the last couple and then it was like 10 to go, and that goes by like that. It was quick.
Yeah, I mean, 14-second laps don't take long.
No, and it, like I said, I now my thing is, now can these drivers use this as a building ground for your short track racing for this year? I personally think that Bowman Gray is very, very similar to how you could set up a car for Martinsville. It's half the size, obviously, but I think for grip-wise, handling purposes, I think you can have similar setups to Martinsville and some other short tracks this year.
Yeah, probably the one thing and that I really noticed on Ryan Blaney's car, and this would be useful on any tight racetrack, is the way that car would rotate in the middle of the corner, probably better than anybody else's. He was so much faster. He was about the same going in, and just from the quarter in to 3/4 out in the middle of that corner, that thing was a rocket ship. And you get a car to rotate like that, where you have the mechanical ability to rotate, where you're not cranking on the wheel so hard. That is going to be super fast. And if they could do that on other short tracks where that's a premium getting to rotate, I think they're going to be super fast on that. So maybe they found something that, tires are going to be different, tracks obviously different aero, but there's something in the geometry somewhere that they had that made that car rotate so well. So I think that's a good way to start the year.
And not to mention that for Chase and Ryan Blaney, how much momentum it starts to carry to start off the year, and how confident you already feel going into this year. And that goes a long way. I think with this clash, it will translate a lot more than any of the other clashes, including the Daytona clashes, for races throughout the year. There's only 4 super speedway races a year, but there's tons of tons and tons of tracks that require some sort of mechanical grip that you'll have similar setups to, and that is big. And drivers and teams know that, and they'll build upon this. And when you go to Daytona and you win or you crash, you're like, whatever, it's Daytona. We didn't really know what we had going into here. It's not a big deal. We'll just kind of throw that one out. But this one, they'll use a lot of their notes from this. I like the fact that when they went back to the garage, they didn't have the rigs or anything back there. They just had a little setup like you would normally see at a short track and like a local short track down here in the South. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. It was just, it was just like your regular Saturday night, local racers, I got to pull back to the trailer, do some work on it, and go back out. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, they packed the place, and, I was critical of what they charged for it, but, the value is worth what it is.
Well, you knew they were pack it, and I mean, I think some people got cheaper tickets as they were able to find some deals between all of the different ticket sites, but it'll go down. But they had to pay for all the renovations they did to the track and upgrades they had to do for the Cup Series to be there, including Saferberry. That's one big thing. You'll see the ticket price if they go there again next year, which I really hope they do, or maybe even do an all-star race there if they wanted to change where the Clash is. They need to keep Bowman Gray somewhat on the schedule. Maybe not even for a points race. Points race there, it'd be tough to have 36 cars on the track. It was tough with 25. That was pushing out to be too many. But we'll see. I think it's a good start to the year. Now, the one thing this year that I just saw, in 1987, Bill Elliott started off the year with a win at the Clash, and then he went on to win the Daytona 500 that year. Now, is that something that Chase Elliott can make it happen this year, winning the Clash and then winning the Daytona 500, be like father, like son?
Could very, very well happen. Chase is a pretty good, super speedway racer.
Hendrick's very good at the cars.
Tracks. Chase's car is going to be fast. It just, it's so hard to pick that race. Can he do it? Yeah, absolutely, he can do it.
Yeah, you just got to be at the right place at the right time.
Can he crash out on lap 3? Absolutely. So.
Yep, but that'd be interesting to see. I don't think Chase has won a Clash before, so he has opportunity.
No, he did not win a Clash before, so that's pretty cool.
Yep, so he has the opportunity to do what his dad did, nearly 40 years ago. So we'll see if he can make that happen, win the Daytona 500. Now, NASCAR announced this week, kind of going into a little bit of Daytona 500 and previewing a little bit of the season. This is a really big rule change, and it can be very beneficial. NASCAR will award a point for the fastest lap in each of the races, obviously excluding the Championship 4. You're not going to get an extra point for that one because that's just whoever wins that one. But that's huge, and I don't know. I think it just says a point. I'm thinking it's a playoff point. So
that's what I was going to ask. Did they mention if it's a playoff point?
So
not. How many times have people missed it by 1 point?
Yeah, that's true. If I had to guess, it's a playoff point. I'm just seeing a point, but from what I'm seeing, it's a playoff point, which is huge. And Daytona, that's just kind of luck of the draw with whoever you drafted with that day. But I think that is a very good rule change. They're trying to make this whole format as good as it can be. Again, a lot of drivers want it to go back to the old school way where if you're the best during the season, you just win. You win on points. Even that's including Denny Hamlin and everybody.
That, but I mean, I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to have some interest because usually 3-4 races ago, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, well, it has made it interesting for sure.
Yeah.
And all right, well, moving on, we're tying this week's episode into the Super Bowl. That's why I've got the Eagles hat on. Go Birds. They play in the Super Bowl, so we're going to do a crossover episode with some Super Bowl talk a little bit, kind of basic stuff. So this is just a basic question for you, but a 30-second ad for the Super Bowl is around $7 million now. I didn't see the final numbers for 2024, but the 2023 broadcast of the Super Bowl, Fox made around $600 million in ad revenue alone. Can you guess how much ad revenue the Daytona 500 produces on Fox?
Wow. I would say they're not going to be 7 million. I'm going to say probably in the 150 million range.
Oh no, they're way less revenue that they
Oh, is it
make
that
from that.
Okay. I I thought they probably because they do still have some pretty good ads and it's a long race, so I thought maybe they would do. So it must be way cheaper than
Oh yeah,
what we talking about 40 million?
a little lower,
No kidding. 20?
slightly higher.
Okay, 30.
Well, me in the middle. It's $24.3 million of ad revenue
Wow,
that
I would
Fox
have
made
thought it would have
last
been
year.
that much
Now they'll
difference.
probably make a little bit more. It might make up to $30 million this year. It seems like each year you'll get a little bit more and more. Then that's just from ad revenue. It's not counting anything else. But that just that shows you that football is the king sport out of anything in America. How much money? It's just buku how much money they make. But also tickets to the Super Bowl average $10,000. Tickets to the Daytona 500 average around 70 something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge difference there. And yeah, so I thought that was just an astronomical number, and that was kind of crazy. Um, we'll get to another game later on, but let's talk about Volusia this week. Volusia is kicking off. That is the race that is this week. We're not going to pick winners or anything, but that's the World of Outlaws kicking off at Volusia. Now, last week, Justin Peck won all three races in the 360 car. I assume he's going to still be there in his 410 car racing in
and that's
the
a new
World of
team.
Outlaws.
He's with the Rudine Racing, which it's a Ford, so you Ford guys. I'm going to assume his 360 is also a Ford. That I don't know. I know the 410 is a Ford.
Yeah,
So I'm just assuming it, but hey, that's Justin Peck's a great racer. I always thought he's very smooth, and so won all three of got all three Gators, and so it'd be a little different now. Now we're going against World Outlaw guys. Competition's going to be a little tougher, but you know what? He's got momentum nobody else does right now.
what do you think he can translate what he learned in the 360 car into the World of Outlaw races?
Yeah, for the most part, there's honestly anymore. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. Um, a couple hundred horsepower, a little bit heavier, but honestly, those 360s, for the life of me, don't understand why they're so popular. You're still talking 60 grand for a 360 engine. It's not that much. All the same amount of parts as a 410.
And you don't make as
But
much.
yeah, and the purse don't pay as much, but they're a little bit slower, and a lot of times the racing's a little bit better. So maybe that's the biggest draw. But he has an idea how the track's changing throughout the night. Now, the one thing that's going to be different, last week it's been cold as hell. This week, we've been in the mid 80s all week, so that it's going to definitely be hotter. The track's probably going to be a lot slicker. We've had some sun out all week, so that's going to be a little different. But as far as the track, changes throughout the night, he probably has a little better idea than most of them. But these guys are the ultimate professional racers. They're not going to take them more than a second or two to have it figured out.
Yeah. Well, the biggest story for the World of Outlaws this weekend is that Christopher Bell's making his return to sprint car racing. He hasn't raced in a little while in a sprint car. He just finished up in the midgets over at the Chili Bowl and the Tulsa Shootout, so he's got a little bit of dirt racing this year already. And he just finished up in the Clash, of course. He obviously didn't perform great in that race either. A lot of
That's because I picked him.
Well, a lot of shock. Well, mine did. I thought Joey had a chance to win on my pick, but yeah, he returns into the famous 69K, the Kreitz Racing machine, down there at Volusia Speedway Park, which they race tomorrow. Which I assume they're already down there and getting everything set up. I'm sure Donnie is getting the tires all prepared. I guarantee that. And How do you think Christopher is going to fare in this? Do you think it's going to take a little of adjusting for him getting back into the groove of a sprint car, or the first day is just kind of more of a let's see what we got and kind of build on it through this 4 days of racing?
Well, I don't think it's going to take him real long. I mean, the 69Ks, great car, as good as equipment as anybody's got, for one thing. If they get it close right off the bat, he's going to be in really good shape. If they miss it by a mile and where they have to, adjust, maybe the communication between Donnie and Christopher, what he's saying and what Donnie's receiving may be a little bit. I don't know. He could be like, hey, tighten it up a little bit and I'll stand on it. So I think the car is going to be good. Could he win one? Yeah, absolutely. He could win one right off the bat down there.
I'm curious to see how they set up the car with the Toyota, them being new with the whole.
I don't know if it's a Toyota.
Let's kind of assume it's probably Toyota. But if it is Toyota, that'd be interesting how they can adjust it and how they can get things set up. I'm sure they'll be using notes from other Toyota drivers. I'm sure you'll see drivers like James McFadden, Buddy Kofoid. They might pick their brains a little bit, those crew's brain, if that is, in fact, a Toyota. And there's so many more. One thing I want to leave off with the World of Outlaws for the season. Last year we gave dark horses, and I was really almost spot on with the dark horse of Giovanni Salzi. He was pretty consistent throughout the year. It was going to be hard to beat David Gravel for the championship. I don't know if anybody could have last year. He just was the most consistent driver, one of the most consistent I've seen in sprint car racing, and the team effort overall was just incredible. Now let's give our dark horse for 2025 in the World of Outlaws series. I'm going to give you mine. And this driver came on so strong last year, basically out of nowhere, and I was thoroughly impressed. The end of the year, he was going on an incredible run. Just mentioned him. Buddy Kofoid is my dark horse to win the World of Outlaw Championship this year.
Is that a dark horse?
Technically, yes, because this is a second full-time
we're talking about
year.
dark horse to win the championship, not just have a good season.
Oh no, he's going to have a good season, but to win the championship, yeah. So
if I had to pick a dark horse to win the championship, let's keep it in Pennsylvania. He had an off season last year, so I'm gonna go with Logan Schuchart to have a little bit of a bounce back season.
He definitely needs it. He had a great year in 2023, 2024. Yep. He was okay in 2024. Had a couple wins, but he didn't really get going until about the summertime, and that's when it was too little, too late. So you have to start off strong. You really have to start off strong from February up till April. If you put yourself in a hole, it's hard to dig out of it because a lot of these guys are so consistent. You can't rely on them to crash. I like that. So we'll look back on this and see how right or wrong we are. I didn't jinx Gio too much last year, so hopefully I don't jinx Buddy too much on this one. We'll see what happens. Should be a good year. We'll see what Volusia brings in 4 races. So that is a big weekend for World of Outlaws and sprint car racing as a whole. All right, getting back into it to finish off our little Super Bowl Daytona 500 crossover. One thing I want to bring up, and I posted it on the channel's TikTok earlier, but these damn cans are badass. Busch Light Daytona 500 edition. They're really awesome. It tastes like winning. They're really sweet. I'm going to have them drinking for them for the Super Bowl. I have to work Daytona 500 day, so I can't drink that day. You could, but the consequences would probably be bad. But have them for the Super Bowl, and they're pretty. That's probably the coolest cans I've seen in a while. I really like them. Busch Light, between the peach we had earlier and now this, they're hitting strong right now. So good on you, Busch Light. If you want to sponsor, go on. All right, this segment, it's kind of fun. You can't really get anything wrong unless
that's good because I've sucked on these other ones.
Unless people criticize you. So What I'm going to give you are 10 best Super Bowl foods. So I'm going to give you one at a time. I need you to blind rank these foods for your Daytona 500 party.
All right, let me get so 1 through 10. I'm going to have to write these down, as I'll forget where I put where.
And I'll put it on the screen.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm just picking at random. So this is blind. You don't know what these appetizers or foods are. First up, chili.
Chili. Like chili, that's going to be a little low on the list. We're going to put that at 8.
Okay. Let's go with nachos.
Nachos. That's a staple of any party tailgate. Let's put that at 5.
Burger sliders.
Gotta love burgers. Can't have a tailgate without some burgers. Let's go 2 for burger sliders.
Cupcakes and cookies.
Always got to have a little dessert. We'll move them down to number 6.
Pigs in a blanket.
Yeah. That seems to be... I almost think of that as breakfast. We're going to put that down at number 7.
Loaded potato skins.
Oh, now they're good. Number 4.
Meatballs.
Wow. Should have saved some other ones. Let's go with number 3 on meatballs.
Buffalo wings.
Oh, number 1.
Chips and dip.
Chips and dip. Yeah, this is probably too low for them. They got to go at number 9.
This should be the last one. Pizza.
Pizza. Well, got no place left, so we'll put that at number 10.
Dang. All right,
Pizza's just everybody can bring a pizza. Nothing special about that.
The top 10 Super Bowl foods in that order now. Wings are number 1 on the Super Bowl foods. Number 2 is pizza. Number 3 is chips and dip. 4 is nachos. 5 is sliders. 6 is the potato skins. 7 is pigs in a blanket. 8 is chili. 9 is meatballs. And 10 is cupcakes and cookies.
Yeah, I had a couple of them in the same order.
So you can't really get anything wrong on that game. And honestly, I think that does it for this week. We're not going to give any picks. There's no NASCAR this week. I'm not going to give a pick for the Super Bowl. You see who I'm rooting for, but I'm not going to pick a winner or anything because I'll be damned if I jinx anything. All I know is that I'll have plenty of these Busch Light Daytona 500 cans. Probably some other alcoholic beverages will be drank. And you got to have some cuss juice, as I call it. So, should be fun, hopefully. We'll see how pissed off we are next week. When we start back up for the Daytona 500 week, we will be resuming our NASCAR fantasy just so we can lose again to Mom. So that'll be fun. And so till next week, guys, enjoy the Super Bowl, enjoy the foods, and we'll preview Daytona 500 next week.
All right, bye everybody.